speakers today, Professor Teresa brings with him a wealth of knowledge and experiences in the field of peace and conflict studies. We eagerly anticipate his insights and perspectives on digital transformation and artificial intelligence for sustaining peace and democracy. So I especially welcome our keynote speakers for this second day. So I extend a heartfelt welcome to our chief guest, Professor Meyer, and our special guest, Professor Tamashiro, Professor Teresa, and Professor Eastern University of Sri Lanka, and Professor Prof. So especially I welcome all these special guests for this second day of APPRA Conference 2024. Your presence here today underscores the significance of our collective endeavors today fostering peace and understanding. I extend a special welcome to the panel chairs, panel speakers, track chairs, authors, delegates, invited guests, students, as well as well-wishers for this peace and reconciliations part. So whose passion and dedications are vital to shaping the future of peace, research and activisms. So I especially welcome on behalf of the organizing committee APPRA 2024 to this second day of the day. So as we embark on this journey together over the next few days, let us remain committed to these ideas of the dialogue, understanding and cooperation in the peace-related path. May this conference serve as a catalyst for positive change and a great testament to the power of collective action in building a more peaceful day and joy. Last but not least, I would like to express our gratitude to our sponsors for their generous support, without which this conference would not have been possible today, and future 2 days. Thank you again, once again, welcome you all to this second day of the Asia Pacific Peace Research Association Conference 2024. Thank you.
A warm welcome and insightful words. We are honored to have with us Professor Teresa Muñoz, Co-Secretary General of the International Peace Research Association, Argentina. Her presence signifies a deep commitment to the intersection of technology and peace. I invite her to deliver the inaugural address.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be here. And first of all, I want to excuse me because I do not have so fluent English as you all have. My mother language is Spanish, and when last year I was elected Secretary General of the IPRA, I said, please start studying Spanish just to communicate with me. I mean, to me, as Matt and me do. I speak Spanish, he understands, he speaks English, I understand. So that's a good arrangement. And sometimes from Argentina and Brazil, we are too close and we do the same. The Brazilians speaking Portuguese, we in Spanish, and we understand. And perhaps that's the idea of constructing peace. To understand each other from the language and from the beliefs, from the statements we all have. They do not have to be the same, but we can understand each other. Yesterday, I was late, but I can listen to some of you, very prestigious academics, and I love what you said, because you are studying peace, behaviors, and many other things that has to do with peace education. I particularly listened to Professor Liu Chen, and I have the same idea he has, because I think we have to change our culture. We have different cultures here, but there's one culture that I don't know if it is said that unify us, that is the peace culture. Because in any culture we have, we transmit it from one generation to another one. It is not transmitted genetically, but if we transmit peace culture, we have I have 1 minute less. Well, the thing is, what are we doing with all this? Because war is present in our world, and not war, a wide war, as we can see in Ukraine or Israel or many other things, in our neighborhood, between us. How can we put into reality what we are studying? That's the thing. And perhaps the thing is that we have to consider and to look to the otherness, to look the person we have beside us, to understand, to look at his or her eyes. Perhaps that's the thing. Studying is very well, it's what we have to do, but we have to continue in our relations, how we interact with other people. That's the thing we have to teach our children. That's all. So I invite you to have great dreams, as one of our companions from Latin America said. His name is Esteban Ramos. He thinks that peace is constructed between us every day. It is not a reality that we have to choose. It's a reality we construct inside us. And from us, we have to construct it together. It's a human construction. Between the good morning of every day, between the phrases as, how are you? How do you think? How do you feel? And empathize with all the people. We do not have to think the same things, but we can understand, as Liu Chen said, first understand. And the power of the emphasizing is going to be with us. So please, this is going to lead us to think about social justice, because that's the idea. And personally, I think that without social justice, peace is not possible. And this is thing from any religion, from any culture, from any political thinking, social justice. Everybody has to have, I don't know if I can say this, the right to eat, to have health, to have studies, to live. The right to live. That's all. Thank you.
Our sincere appreciation to Professor Meyer for gracing us with your profound insights. Your address has set a thoughtful tone for the day ahead. Now I invite your attention to a moment of reflection and tribute. We pay homage to Professor Johan, the father of peace studies, in a session chaired by Professor Meyer.
Buenos días. Hola. ¿Cómo está? Me llamo Meyer. Oh, in English. I'm sorry. I'd like to invite Dr. Linderoth and Dr. Liu Chen to come up with me. It seemed correct to me. in this tribute to one of the most internationalists, Europeans, I've ever met. To have an internationalist group from Asia, Latin America, and North America to come together to just for a few minutes, a minute. Marite has already spoken, so Yi Cheng and Ludwig, you have 1 minute each, 1 minute. To just say some brief reflections about Dr. Johan Galtung, whose ideas have been with us for a long time and will be with us for even longer. I'll begin by just sharing 2 or 3 things. The first is this. Any tribute today to passing must include the fact that we've also lost the great Betty Reardon, peace educator, in this last year. But beyond our own family members, and some I'm sure I don't know about, I have to say this, and I say this with my Palestinian kafir, which I had with me yesterday. We also have to pay tribute to Rafayette Al-Arir, the Gaza poet, who, along with 30,000 others, have been killed in just the last months. It's funny, Rafayette Al-Arir from Gaza said something almost exactly like what my Co-Secretary General just said, and we did not rehearse this. One of his most famous poems said, "If I must die, you must live. If I must die, you must live." And the second time I spent time with Johan Galtung was in my city, in New York, at the Russell Tribunal on Palestine, which he was a member of. So I feel confident that Johan would have wanted these kinds of tributes in this room today. I'll just end my little segment by saying the first time I met him was also poignant. I was in my early 20s, and he was not speaking at a peace research conference. I had no idea I'd be interested or involved in this scientific group of peace scholars. He was speaking at an activist conference, and he was amusing himself and everyone else by giving the keynote address in at least 5 languages, with most of us knowing at best 2. But he rolled in from Norwegian to Swedish to a little bit of Chinese to English, of course, and we were in Italy at the time, so Italian, and he just sort of did that. I think mainly to amuse himself, but to amuse us as well. Because Johan was always involved in activism as well as academia, always involved in exchanging interpersonally as well as challenging us in our mind. Johan, we will miss you. Linda, Leo, please.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say a few words about Johan Galtung, who's a giant in the peace studies field, but he was also very important in future studies, and I've done both for many years. There's a comparable organization called the World Futures Plural Studies Federation that is like IPRA, International Peace Research, and both are affiliated with UNESCO and the premier organizations for peace studies and future studies. And Johan Galtung was the founder of both organizations going way back, and along with the Golding and Elise Golding and various other people. So he's been making many contributions for many, many years. And I have a holistic peace book I'm finishing finally this year. And I look at 7 evolving aspects of peace in it, but 2 of those are from Galtung. And so he's very famous in peace studies, even more than future studies, as talking about negative peace and positive peace. And so negative peace is getting rid of war and also physical violence as a goal for peace. And the positive peace he defined first with a negative definition, which is getting rid of structural violence, which is where people suffer indirectly because the system doesn't support their needs being met when it could, when it potentially could. And that's basically all the social justice questions in a positive sense, which are very important here and in every country in the world. So I think those negative peace and positive peace, everybody in peace studies uses those terms. And so we are indebted to Johan Galtung. I did presentations of all the different aspects of my peace book twice in front of him, one at the 50th anniversary of IPPRA and another one where he hosted a conference in Norway on this island. And the first time he made some comment about something I did was sounded like California. But the second time he said it was good, but we have to take action about all the aspects of peace that we talk about in peace studies. Thank you.
I personally many thanks Prof. John Galtung because after I read his books, he changed my idea to think about peace. Otherwise, I couldn't come here for this conference. I'm honored I have opportunity to invite John Galtung with Lanka University, my university, 3 times. Every time he input a lot of things from university, also my students. So, for my understanding, Prof. John Galtung, like a fire, fire in the dark, light the lamp, then make the right direction or peace studies. They totally changed many people, their understanding what is peace. Like Linda said, control violence, something like that. His conception totally changed our idea about peace. And not only past today, but I think also for the future. So very thanks for his contribution. That's all. Thank you.
Amongst other things, I try to be very good about timing. But when the core host and organizer tells me that we can take a little longer and that we have our distinguished friend, Professor Shanti Nandana, Professor of Sociology from Sri Lanka, that would like to also say a word, and that they will allow time for that, I can do nothing other than say, Professor Shanti, please come up.
Good morning. I think we are gathering today and yesterday and tomorrow because of Johan Galtung. We studied in Sweden, peace and conflict studies in Sweden, and we were influenced by Johan Galtung's theories and concepts. After that training, we started peace education in Sri Lanka, and because of him, this conference organized as a result of his training. And there's a special paper today how we organize peace education in Sri Lanka because of Galtung's influence. Especially, he has used Buddhism and Hinduism, some of the concepts in Hinduism, to develop his theories and concepts like suffering, sukha, middle path, and also a lot of concepts from Buddhism to develop his concept like positive peace, negative peace, associative peace, dissociative peace, and so on. So, as South Asian, we should respect him, salute him, and and also we will use most of his theories and concepts in peace education in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Like all humans, Johan Galtung had to die, but if he dies, we live. and we live to continue the work. There'll be many books and articles reflecting on the legacy of Johan Galtung, maybe even as many books as Johan wrote himself. But in any case, we will live to carry on the work, including the work of making peace with justice, positive peace in Palestine and the world over. Thank you.
A heartfelt gratitude to Professor Meyer, and whose expertise shares lives on unique aspects of peace. Please welcome Professor Tamashiro from Webster University, USA, as he shares insights on memorials and museums for peace in search of peace building for tumultuous times.
Respects to the historical and contemporary relationships with the lands on which we live and work. In North America, I currently reside on the lands of the Osage Nation, Missouri, Illinois Confederacy. Many of you coming from near and far are already committed to cultivating deeper connections and relationships with the indigenous peoples, languages, and lands in your locales. And this land, where we convene today, in Vavuniya, where since ancient times, waves of residents and newcomers from diverse traditions, the Kokuveli, the Karupanish, Chanukukwan, and other peoples have been assuming this spaces with various agendas, whether to habitate, to occupy, to colonize, or to defend ancestral ownership rights and sacred custodianship. In this space and place, let us acknowledge and recognize our presence here means too that we remember, witness, and step foot upon the occupancies into the unreconciled disputes and amidst sacred legacies here. Let us attune to the sacredness of being, of becoming, and of belonging. We pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. I also want to thank the organizers of this year's APPRA conference. Ever since the first APPRA conference I joined in 2012, the work we share and the connections and relationships we cultivate here have been transformative. The fields I study, namely peace narratives and the mindsets and museums for peace, have been transformed, profoundly uplifted, and inspired. Thank you each for being here and sharing your energies and your being with me and all of us here. So this session is Memorials and Museums for Peace. I invite you to join me in the search of peace building for tumultuous times. The title of this talk follows that of a new book, Museums for Peace in Search of History, Meaning, and Change. The ebook is available as a free, open access download from the publisher's site. The QR code is up there, and I have lots of cards here that you can take to get the book. My approach to the study of memorials and museums have been transformative journey into witness consciousness of peace narratives. The journey into witness consciousness is a genre of literature, pilgrimage studies, psychology, and philosophy. It encompasses research into multiple worlds and dimensions, including the observable, geophysical world, the interior world of mind and consciousness, the dream world, the world of imagination and creativity, and other metaphysical, spiritual, and embodied dimensions. From a young age, I felt the tragedies of unreconciled collective traumas in my family and my community, and the widespread, and witnessed the subsequent triumphs and defeats in their struggles to reclaim life, dignity, and humanness. My motivation for this and many research projects has been to understand and address, if not remediate and heal, ancestral and generational traumas. One project in the book was on narratives of witnessing of two destinations in Montgomery, Alabama: the National Memorial for Peace and Justice and the Companion Legacy Museum, from enslavement to mass incarceration. The main feature of the National Memorial for Peace and Justice is an array of 805 suspended steel rectangular boxes shaped like coffins, arranged in the form of a large open-air temple. There is a hanging block for each county in the United States where lynching took place, with the names of lynching victims and the dates of their murders engraved on the steel boxes. There are 4,400 names documented on the boxes. The Legacy Museum, from enslavement to mass incarceration, is a site where enslaved black people had been warehoused. The museum advances the thesis that the myth of racial difference has driven the socially condoned practices of enslavement to lynching to codified racial segregation of people, black people. Three knowledge paradigm transformations emerged. First, peacebuilding as bearing witness. It is a paradigm shift to emphasize bearing witness to the inhuman as a necessary step for social healing and restorative justice. In a study of Auschwitz survivors, Georgia Agamben spotlights the dignity restoring and healing value of bearing witness when he wrote, "Human beings are human insofar as they bear witness to the inhuman." Bearing witness to the inhuman includes empathic responses in the places and spaces of memory. As I walked the streets of Montgomery, which was a portal for the domestic slave trade, I felt the heavy energy in my body, the eerie vibes of that era from the building, in the streets, and in the riverside was reverberating in me. The paradigm transformation here is the shift from grand narratives that emphasize hope, heroism, and victory to counter-narratives in which the aim of peacebuilding is to bear witness and acknowledging what is or what was experienced. Remembering as a ceremonial to redefine remembrance and memorialization. From remembering the heroes who resisted, opposed, or survived the violence, to the remembrance and memorialization as sacred time-space ceremonies for bestowing dignity and repose to those who were murdered. Reconciliation as community trust building. In the third paradigm shift, reconciliation was redefined as trust building, as a trust building process to struggle with the entrenched doctrines of domination and supremacy that underlie racial terror. For the Montgomery site, reconciliation starts with reflection and contemplation. In both the museum and the memorial, there are quiet spaces for that. The knowledge transformation here was to replace and reposition the meaning of reconciliation. Trust building, openness to self-reflection, and hearing opposing viewpoints take priority over reconciliation as seeking accountability, apologies, and reparations. Transformation journey is an archetype for our lifelong quest for knowing, being, and meaning. There are profound changes in one's identity, worldview, and ways of thinking. And they are counter-narratives of intractable conflicts, cultural values, and history, which make societal change possible. We observe that ceremony is integral to transformation journeying. Without the formality and ritual of the ceremony, the transformation would be incomplete. Transformation journey and ceremony are meaningful for other areas of peace research, conflict studies, and peace education, where the researchers, being the data and the phenomena are studied are not separated and treated as transactional, but rather viewed as a holistic, integrated, interdependent, reciprocal living system. The emerging insights and paradigm shifts, however, should not be pushed toward universal truths or mandates. This is because each new structural paradigm transformation will contain the seeds for the next transformation and revolution. Thank you.
Tamashiro, for sharing your expertise and broadening our perspectives. We would like to do a memento as a token of appreciation. So please. And I would like to invite our Professor Vavuniya, Vice Chancellor of University of Vavuniya, to present the memento. Thank you, sir. Thank you. The token of appreciation, and I invite Professor Vice Chancellor of the Eastern University of Sri Lanka to present the gift to Professor Maria. Please come to the stage. Meyer on stage to receive a small gift from us by our registrar, Mr. N. Rajavisahan, University of